I said it's time. The billionaire's voice sliced through the air like a knife. Tyler Hawthorne, a man whose wealth could crush kingdoms, leaned back in his leather chair, eyes glinting with cruel amusement. Bring her in. In the hallway outside, a trembling figure paused. Rosa Freeman, a black maid whose hands had scrubbed marble floors for decades, felt her chest tighten. She had served the Hawthorns faithfully for years, always quiet, always unseen, always just a help. But today something felt different. Her mother, Lillian, sat in a wheelchair, fragile and shivering. Alzheimer's had stolen pieces of her mind, leaving her drifting between past and present. Yet in her eyes, a spark remained. A spark Tyler was about to try to snuff out. "Mom, you'll be okay," Rosa whispered, gripping her mother's hand. "Just trust me." The door opened, revealing a room she had never been allowed inside. The air smelled of cigars and expensive wine. Around the massive poker table sat 4 men in tailored suits, their faces massive arrogance, chips stacked like towers between them. Tyler stood, clapping slowly. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight is special. We have a guest of honor." He gestured to Lillian. "My maid's mother, Alzheimer's patient. Weak, fragile, but I thought we'd see if she's really the legend Rosa keeps talking about." Rosa's heart pounded. "You can't," she said, but Tyler just smirked. "Oh, I can, and I will. Let's see if she remembers, or if she's just another empty mind in a chair." Lillian blinked at the faces around her, confusion clouding her gaze. Where am I?" she asked softly. Her voice was almost a whisper, yet it carried decades of dignity. "You're here to play poker," Tyler said, leaning forward. "But not just any poker. The stakes are real, and so is your humiliation. I want to see if the great Lillian Freeman, the legendary poker player everyone whispered about in Vegas decades ago, still has what it takes." Rosa froze. Legend? That was a story from her mother's past she had never believed, a fairy tale whispered by old gamblers. Lillian, the quiet seamstress who once taught Rosa how to fold sheets perfectly, a poker legend? Impossible. I can't," Rosa said, shaking her head. She's sick. She can't." Tyler's laugh was sharp. "Oh, but she can. She must. If she loses, I'll fire you, Rosa. Permanently. You and your little family. Think of it as motivation." Rosa's blood ran cold. Tyler always had a way of making people feel trapped, as if the world itself had twisted into his design. She looked down at her mother, unsure if Alzheimer's would make her mother panic, or if something else, something powerful, would awaken. "Sit, Mother," Rosa said, her voice firm despite the shaking of her hands. "Just sit and do what they ask. Please." Lillian's fingers tightened around Rosa's. "I'll try, darling. Don't worry." Tyler clapped again, louder this time. "Deal the cards." The dealer, a tall man in a crisp vest, slid the first cards across the polished table. Lillian's hands, surprisingly steady, accepted them. Her fingers moved with a grace Rosa had never seen, delicate but precise. "Mom?" Rosa whispered, panic rising. Lillian's eyes, though clouded with confusion, flickered with a knowing light. She studied her hand. A small smile tugged at her lips. "I remember," she said softly, almost to herself. "I've never forgotten." Tyler's smile faltered. "What did you say?" "Nothing," Lillian replied, her voice calm, almost dangerous. The first round began. The men laughed, raising bets, trying to intimidate the frail woman. But each time, Lillian responded with uncanny precision. Chips flew, bets doubled, and Tyler's smugness turned into unease. Rosa watched, her heart hammering. Could this fragile woman, her mother, actually be the poker legend of whispered stories? Could the past truly rise from Alzheimer's haze to confront the present? Then, in the final hand of the round, Lillian pushed her last stack forward, a dangerous glint in her eyes, a memory of battles fought in smoky rooms long ago. Tyler leaned forward, confident. "I raise," he said. Lillian's lips curved into a slow, unassuming smile. "Call." The table fell silent, and then, In one swift reveal, the cards were shown. Tyler's face paled. A silence heavier than any storm filled the room. The legend had awakened. Rosa gasped. The impossible had just happened. Tyler's jaw tightened. "No, that's not possible," he whispered, almost himself. Lillian's eyes, clear and sharp, met his. "Do you remember me now, Tyler?" she said softly. "The world has a way of forgetting, but I never forget." The room seemed to freeze. Lillian Freeman, the woman everyone had dismissed, the Alzheimer's patient they thought helpless, was in command, and the first round had just ended. But this was only the beginning. The room was silent. Tyler's usual confidence had cracked just enough for doubt to creep in. The other men around the table exchanged uneasy glances. Lillian Freeman, frail and whispered about as helpless, had just demolished their first round. "Luck," Tyler muttered, trying to hide his shaking hands. "Just beginner's luck." Lillian's smile was soft, almost gentle, but there was fire behind it. "Luck has nothing to do with it," she said quietly. "It's all strategy, observation, patience. Something you never understood." Rosa watched in awe and fear. Her mother had always been quiet, always fading in the background, yet here she was, commanding the table like a seasoned warrior. The Alzheimer's that had stolen years from her mind seemed powerless in the face of something older, sharper, and stronger. Tyler slammed his fist onto the table. "You're bluffing." Lillian tilted her head, examining him as if she were reading a book. "Am I?" she asked softly. Then, in one smooth motion, she pushed all her chips forward again. "Call." The other men stared, unable to move. Tyler's arrogance began to crumble as Lillian revealed hand after hand, dismantling their confidence. She was calm, unshakable, almost untouchable. Rosa's throat was dry. "Mom, this is incredible." "How?" Lillian glanced at her, a flicker of warmth in her eyes. "Years ago, I taught them all how to play," she said, almost laughing. "Before Alzheimer's, before life decided to test me. I was known, a legend in Vegas. Remember, Rosa?" Rosa's mind spun. She had heard the stories from her mother's friends long ago, whispers of a woman who could read anyone at the table and always win. She had never imagined it was true. Not now. Not like this. Tyler's face had turned red, veins bulging. His carefully constructed world of power and superiority was collapsing under the hands of a woman he deemed weak. "I don't understand you're sick," he barked. "And yet, I remember everything that matters," Lillian said, calm as the eye of a storm. Her fingers moved with precision, stacking chips like a master. "You wanted to humiliate me, Rosa, to break me, but all you've done is awaken me." The tension in the room was unbearable. Tyler tried to raise the stakes, shoving chips forward aggressively. "Double or nothing," he roared. Lillian didn't flinch. She matched him with a smile, unbothered, unafraid. Her gaze swept across the table, settling on Tyler. "Do you really want to test me?" Tyler leaned closer, voice low and dangerous. "I will humiliate you and your daughter. Everyone will see what a failure you are." For a moment, Rosa thought her mother might tremble, might falter. But Lillian's hands moved, the way they had in smoky rooms filled with gamblers long ago, the way they had won her fame. Each card revealed her brilliance. Each call shattered Tyler's confidence. The men around the table began to whisper. "Is she really?" "She's a legend," Rosa whispered under her breath. She couldn't stop staring. Her mother, the woman who had once quietly taught her to fold sheets and cook meals, was transforming the room with sheer presence and skill. Then it happened. A sudden silence fell. Lillian's hand hovered over her cards, the final moment before revealing the next winning round. Tyler's eyes narrowed, muscles tense. He leaned in, prepared to attack her verbally, mentally, financially. Rosa's heart pounded. "Mom, don't," she whispered. Lillian looked at her daughter, a gentle smile touching her lips. "Trust me, Rosa. It's time they remember why my name was feared." With that, she revealed her hand. Every man at the table froze. Tyler's face went pale, his jaw trembling. The chips in front of Lillian were now mountains, towering over his. She's unbeatable, one of the men whispered, voice shaky. Tyler slammed the table again, voice breaking with rage and disbelief. Impossible. And in that moment, something shifted in the room. Lillian leaned back, calm, eyes glinting. Tyler had underestimated her. Not just her skill, but her spirit, her memory, her will. Rosa realized the truth. Her mother's Alzheimer's couldn't touch what truly mattered. Her mind, her legacy, her unbroken heart. Tyler's glare met Lillian's. This isn't over, he hissed. Lillian smiled, a quiet, dangerous promise. Oh, Tyler, it's just beginning. Rosa felt a shiver run down her spine. This was more than a game. This was justice. And it was about to get personal. Tyler Hawthorne's fist shook as he slammed them on the table for what felt like the 100th time. The air in the room was thick with tension, with awe, with a taste of humiliation he had never imagined. Lillian Freeman sat in her wheelchair, frail yet fierce, a quiet smile curling on her lips. Rosa stood behind her, heart hammering, watching the transformation unfold. You think you can scare me? Tyler roared. You're sick. You can't even remember yesterday, let alone outplay me. Lillian leaned forward slightly, her eyes sharp, unwavering. I remember everything that matters, she said softly. And tonight you will remember me. The final hand was dealt. Lillian's fingers moved with the precision of a master. Despite the years, despite the Alzheimer's, despite the cruel games Tyler had forced her into, each card revealed her brilliance. Each bet she made struck fear into the hearts of the arrogant men who had once looked down on her. Tyler's confident sneer was cracking, his empire of superiority beginning to crumble under the weight of a woman he had dismissed. You really don't understand, do you? Lillian said quietly, almost to herself. Then louder, I've won bigger than this, Tyler. You're just lucky I've been waiting. Rosa felt tears prickle in her eyes. For so long, her mother had been invisible to the world, treated as weak, treated as less than. But now everyone saw what she really was. A legend, a warrior, a force that could not be tamed. Tyler raised his final bet, desperate, shaking. All in, he yelled. Lillian's smile was calm, serene, deadly. She matched him without hesitation, pushing all her chips forward. The room held its breath. The cards were revealed. Tyler's face drained of color. The men around the table gasped, whispers of disbelief filling the room. Lillian Freeman had done the impossible. She had not only won, she had humiliated Tyler, dismantled his arrogance, and reminded everyone of her unstoppable mind. Tyler stumbled back, rage boiling but powerless. This isn't fair, he screamed, voice cracking. Lillian leaned back in her chair, eyes glinting with quiet satisfaction. Life isn't fair, Tyler, she said softly. But sometimes justice is. Rosa ran forward, clutching her mother's hands. Mom, you did it. You. I remembered, Rosa, Lillian interrupted gently, tears in her own eyes now. I remembered who I am, who we are. You must never forget that, either. No one gets to define your worth. Tyler's empire of fear and power had collapsed in front of everyone, and the humiliation was complete. Lillian had not just won the game. She had won back her dignity, her legacy, and her daughter's pride. Rosa looked at her mother, awe and love flooding her heart. I always knew. I always believed, she whispered. Lillian smiled, weak but unshakable. Belief, that's all it ever takes. Tyler, defeated, left the room with a storm of anger behind him, but his departure felt hollow, meaningless. The real victory was not in money, nor in power. It was in truth, in resilience, in the revelation that no cruelty could erase a person's spirit. The guests, once laughing at Lillian, now bowed their heads in respect. Some whispered apologies. Others just stared in awe. Lillian's legend, once whispered in smoky rooms long ago, had returned, more powerful than anyone could imagine. Rosa helped her mother from the table, her heart full of emotion. You're a legend, she said again, tears rolling down her cheeks. Lillian took her daughter's face in her hands, steady despite everything. No, we are, she said softly. Never let anyone make you feel small. Never let anyone take your strength. And never, never forget yourself. In that moment, Rose understood. The game, the humiliation, the cruelty, it had all been a test. Not just for Lillian, but for herself. And the lesson was clear. Justice does not always roar. Sometimes it smiles quietly, plays a perfect hand, and reminds the world who truly belongs in the light. The mother and daughter walked out of that room together, hand in hand, carrying more than just victory. They carried pride, legacy, and the unshakable knowledge that no one could ever diminish their worth again. And as Tyler Hawthorne's empire trembled behind closed doors, the legend of Lillian Freeman spread quietly, like a storm no one could stop.